Let me get set up here. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is to run a copy of PowerShell. I'll run this administrator nice and simple, and I'll also run a copy of the Windows PowerShell ISE. And I'll come back to the ISE in a second. So, PowerShell v3. What is PowerShell version 3? Come on down. Okay, well, for those of you who are still asleep, who obviously weren't in my last talk, PowerShell v3 is the next version of PowerShell, obviously. This will be shipped with a product whose name I think is Windows something. I'm not allowed to say that, am I? But it will also be shipped as an update to Windows 7. I can't say that. Now, interestingly enough, it will not ship as an update to Windows XP. It will not ship as an update to Windows Vista. And for me personally, this is a disappointment. It will not ship for a version of Windows Server 2008. If you think of Server 2008 was the server version of Vista. So you need to get up on the later versions to actually benefit from v3, which is a bit of a pain for me since two of my main development machines are running Windows Server 2008. For me to benefit from v3 on those machines, I have to update the operating system, which is a task I have put forward for later. Now, the first thing you'll notice when you bring PowerShell v3 up is it looks just like v2. It's blue, it's got a white background, but the very first thing I can do is do $PS, what was my PS version table, and I can see that in fact this is a new version. I can see it's PS version 3 using CLR version 4, and I see a slightly different look. Now, one really cool thing I can do from within PowerShell version 3 is I can say PowerShell minus version 2. And now run v2. And now notice the same startup scripts. If I now do PS version table, notice now I get a slightly older version table. So version 2 and version 3 are effectively side by side. So I can run version 2 scripts, I can run version 3 scripts. Now I just happen to have here, let's see here, hold on. Check v3. This is a really cool little script which basically doesn't do very much other than it's got a one line which says requires version 3, and if that succeeds, then we simply print out rock and roll. So if I now run this from within version 2, it says, oh no, I can't do that because it requires statement in line 1, which requires version 3, blah, blah, blah. So of course, if I exit from version 2, and I run check v3 again, now we see the rock and roll. So again, we can sit side by side. We have the ability to know which version we are. And if your script is in any way sensitive, then you can do checking of the version table as part of your code. Now, let's go back and do PowerShell minus version 2. Okay. And now if I do something like this, if I do get command minus command type is commandlet, and I wrap all of that in parentheses, dot count, I find, oops, hold on a second. I forgot the opening parentheses here. So I'm going to go off and get the command of all the command types that are commandlets, and then count them, and I find there's 236. That's what shipped with version 2. Now, if I exit this, $PS version table, you see it's now version 3 again. And if I now run that exact same command, you'll see I've got 361. Was that proving? I've got a whole bunch more commandlets that come with version 3. Some of them will be useful, some of them won't. Now, it's worth also saying that the installation will come in one of two ways. I'll either install it by installing Windows, well, the next version of Windows, whatever that's called. Am I allowed to say Windows 8? I am? Okay. If you install Windows 8, you'll get this by default, both Windows 8 client and Windows 8 server. Now, am I allowed to tell the truth here? Can I tell the truth? I'm just checking with the Microsoft guy here. I personally think that the tile interface for the server sucks big time. That's a personal view, right? And I'll defend that. For the client, for the tablets, awesome. For the phone, wonderful. But for the server, where I just want to type, so anyway, so I found personally, I find it easier to use server by simply bringing up a PowerShell script and doing everything from PowerShell. I can't find half the new stuff in this supposedly easy-to-use Metro interface. But with PowerShell at my fingertips, I can do important stuff like actually useful work and things. Now, as I mentioned, Vista is not supported, and Server 2008 will not be supported, probably. That hasn't been defined permanently, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case. Now, in addition to the new version of PowerShell, we'll also get an updated version of WinRM, Windows Remote Management, which is going to help me build much more reliable, stable, and robust remoting sessions. And I also get full .NET version 4. Now, you could always run PowerShell against later versions of the CLR if you knew how to do it. See my blog, there's a description to do that. But that meant having to go out and change that everywhere. Now we're going to be running this with version 4 native. And the other thing, which, how many of you guys think you're security conscious? Okay, nobody's put their hand up. Okay, that scares me. But one of the things which will scare your security people is by default, Windows Remoting will be turned on and working. By default. Now, at first sight, that sounds terrible. But boy, it makes all the remoting scenarios just work. It means that, and also, what a really cool thing, I mean, even cooler thing, is the remoting will now run over WS-Man, and all of my SIM and WMI can run over WS Management, rather than running over that agent DCOM. So that's going to make securing this a whole lot easier. I've only got one port to deal with. I don't have all that DCOM port 135 nonsense. With the endpoint mapper, running random ports, blah, blah, blah. And I don't have any of the challenges to debug it when it goes wrong. So some really great stuff in terms of the upgrade there. Now, I've been using PowerShell Plus Professional for several years. It's a lovely tool. It's what I've done to do most of my work up till fairly recently. I say up to fairly recently. There are 2 or 3 features in PowerShell Plus that I just got used to. Well, with PowerShell v2, Microsoft took the opportunity of creating effectively a Notepad++ for PowerShell. It was kind of the way we could think about it. It's something better than Notepad, something which would allow me to run PowerShell the way we would normally run it, but to do so in Unicode so all those folks using double byte character sets can actually use it. Console.exe, the command console is running this blue box, doesn't handle Unicode. So if I'm Japanese and I want to put watashi wa ari desu in my comment, I can't. I'd have to use Romanji, and rather than putting actual katakana characters. Now, for those of you who speak Norwegian or Swedish or Finnish, again, you have less of a problem because most of your character sets are in the ASCII character set. But if you're doing left to right characters, if you're in an Arabic country, or if you're Japanese or Chinese or one of those characters sets, then the ISE was meant to be the smallest possible delta that Microsoft could do to allow those things to happen. So it's WPF based, lovely system, but it really was pretty beginnerish. Well, this is going to scare the heck out of those people who are actually trying to make money out of selling ISEs, because the new version of the PowerShell ISE is now really cool. It's a whole lot better. Let's bring this up first off. Here is a simple window. Now, first thing you see jumping out at you is I only got two panes here. I have my script pane and I have my command pane. I no longer have that command pane where I type stuff and a separate pane where I output stuff. That was pretty lame. And Microsoft took a look at other products. So now I can do dir from here and get the output all in the same place. Is that cool? Boy, you're a tough audience. Right? You stand far enough away, you can't hear me, I can't see you. So this is pretty cool. I still have the slider, which allows me to slide up and down and make everything bigger or smaller. I love this. Now, on the right-hand side, we have this little command pane. And what this will do is, suppose I wanted to do the add format data command. What will happen is this will give me the parameters here. I can type them in. So if I'm not real certain, rather than sitting there typing something, get help on something, commandlet minus question mark, I can simply bring up the command. So for example, how about we do a, sorry, I'll get that in a second. Let's go off and do, I'll find a get command here somewhere. Okay, how about get boot status? Well, in this case, there are no parameters, and we just run it. That's pretty neat. How about get credential? Well, get credential, I would need to do something. Okay, so here I can get credential, and I get the credentials there. How about get date again? Now, get date needs some parameters to work sensibly. So it puts things up here. Date. 1-1-2012, and I can now run that, and now we'll go off and get me a date object that looks like that. So I can begin to use that command prompt there, the command thingy off to the right, to help me fill in the blanks. And if I'm kind of confused as to what the whole thing does, I can push question mark, and up comes the help file for that commandlet. So again, trying to make the commandlets more discoverable. Now, in the same way that we want to do more discoverable commandlets, let's see if I can figure. We also want to be able to help you find scripts. So as a parallel bit of work, the PowerShell MVPs help Microsoft create a script explorer. And here's my script explorer. This is downloadable today. It's free from TechNet. And so what I can do is, now this actually requires Bing. It's the first place we found where Bing is actually really, truly useful. And I'm being serious here. We've added some extra metadata to Bing to be able to understand what scripts look like. So I can do something here, and of course, you all do this yourself, no doubt. I'm going to type my name, M-A-A-S. I can't type very well here. Thomas Lee. And I'll search for any script anywhere along there that has my name in it. And here's the first one that comes up. Of course, comes up, double click that, and here's the details of the script. And I can then go off and actually grab that. So if you want to find a script to do some particular thing, this makes it significantly easier. Now, this, strictly speaking, is not part of PowerShell v3, but it is part of the PowerShell v3 infrastructure. And you can see there's the script itself, and there's a few more scripts that I've done, get broken hardware and so on. So let's go back to our PowerShell Script Explorer. Now, SIM. Oops, wrong one. Let's get rid of that. If I look at get help, star sim star, you notice I have now a whole bunch of new sim-based classes. And one of the newest ones is something like get sim class. So if I say get dash sim class, Win32 share, I get the Win32 share table. Now, you're going to probably tell me what's the difference between that and WMI. Well, if we have a quick look and I pipe that to get member, I can see now All those underscore classes are gone, and I now have decent named sim properties. So again, some nice sim stuff. What else do we have in this? We have a whole bunch of new commandlets, like unblock file. We have a whole bunch of stuff, more, as more, and that's the end of my 10 minutes. So thank you very much for those of you who are still awake, and we'll see you again next time.